especially for us introverts who don't like being out in front and center.
Change of scenery. Our movie studio got turned into the quarantine room. We're just out in the middle of the building.
Nice change. Nice change. If you're watching, hello. Book
Finished
8 down.
Book 8. Everything since the last video just felt like it's taken a lot longer.
You think so?
Everything feels so stretched out. Yeah.
Time is completely warped for me right now. I can't keep track of anything anymore. I don't even know how long it's been since our last video.
So,
did you enjoy Book 8?
I don't remember Book 8. Maybe it's because I started with that one and it felt like I read it so long ago. But I remember it being one of the faster paced books. Easy to follow narratively. And that's why I'm just struggling to remember what. And like one of the stories was told twice, which I thought was fun.
Khalifa, the Fisherman of Baghdad.
The monkeys.
Yes. The apes that he fished out of the river. I actually enjoyed the first one the best. The second one was from like another edition, I think. And it was basically the same storyline, but I just liked the first one better.
I don't know why he even added it. It might have been a little bit shorter, but it was like the same. I don't know why Burton is crazy. And that one too, it started off kind of magical with the apes in the water.
Oh, that story?
Then it got like real realistic. Like it did. It
Yeah.
It was just kind of strange. Is that the one where the girl was in the chest?
Oh gosh, which one?
That one is the same as another story we read. Like way back when, the same thing happened where the mom got, or the wife got mad and put the young girl in the chest.
Yes.
And then someone bought the chest. It was the same story. I think it was the 8th one.
I'm trying to think.
I don't remember.
It was the story of Khalifa the Fisherman. Yes, that's right. Because oh my gosh. Caleb? Yes. He found the fisherman on the hill, and then while he was doing all of that, the chief wife was jealous. Yes, that's the one. Okay.
And it's just like a story from like 100 nights ago or something.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's still trying to save her life, so if that was me, I'd tell the same story twice again.
I think Book 8 was a little easier to follow because there were fewer stories. There were only like 4, and if you don't count the second same story, so 4, and so it was definitely easier to follow, and I just enjoyed it more. I mean, I just find that the stories are faster paced, as you said.
But I mean, also, like I said, we're getting used to it, I think. Getting used to the style and how it's told. It's not as off-putting and strange. Like now before you even open the book, you know exactly what to expect. Because now you're not questioning these decisions of how they made the book. Now it's there. You already know it. So now you can just enjoy the words more.
You're probably right.
If you remember them, unlike me. Oh, I thought it was weird that when he repeated the story, there was no night breaks. It was just like a short story in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So what was the first story? What was the first one?
The first one was a continuation of the very last story from the last book, but then the first full story, Hassan of Basra.
What was that?
That was where he was tricked by the Magian. Hassan ended up in a chest on a ship, and then that started the whole adventure.
Right, and he just kept winding up in terrible situations. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Vaguely remember that.
Yeah.
Vaguely.
And the stories were like a lot longer too. I mean, but I didn't mind that though.
I guess because you can also you're not switching characters every 2 pages. It's easier to.
And there weren't like 30 characters per story, so that made it a lot easier to follow.
What was the third one?
The third one was Mazhar and Zayn al-Mawasif. That one was a little strange because he tried to win her heart, and she was married to a man who was a merchant and who was away, and so then he ended up winning her love. So then, when her husband found out, he took her away. They found a way back to each other, and then they tried to get rid of the husband.
Is that the one with like all the poems?
That was the last one
Oh, that one. Right?
of
That was driving me crazy.
Nuruddin and Miriam, the girdle girl. The girdle girl.
Okay, right. Yeah, that's the one where the girl would make the girdles and they would sell them, and then he sold it to the wrong person, or no, he accidentally sold her or something.
He accidentally sold it to the vizier who was trying to look for her because her dad, the king of France, was trying to look for her.
Right,
Yeah.
France was in that one. Yeah, some of them weren't bad, but it's too few for the amount of poems that broke up the flow of the story. And like, I get it's a cultural thing
Mhm.
for that time period.
It seems so superfluous. I mean,
Right.
and it didn't even seem relevant to the story. It just seemed like he was just trying to draw it out.
Like I
You
said,
know.
she's trying to save her life. She's gonna she's gonna ramble
Yeah.
off as many poems as she can. Something will happen. It'll be like, oh, it's like this poet said. And maybe because, I mean, people used to. It was a big thing to like memorize poetry, so maybe that's it. Maybe it's just weird for us because we don't do that anymore. Just
I
speed bump
don't
after speed
I don't
bump.
like those poems. I just wish the poet would just keep quiet and just let the and let her tell her story. Another weird thing about the third story was how when her husband returned, they were trying to get rid of him. So I think eventually he ended up being buried alive. Do you remember that?
No, I wish I would.
I'm so surprised that it went to that extreme, but
Well, they've done it before. There was
well,
that
yeah,
one.
true.
that-
These characters are quite ruthless, quite ruthless. But I mean, I enjoy them overall. So I think book 9 might be our last because 10 is supposedly a terminal essay.
I really enjoyed the introduction essay because there's
Do
something
you
about
really?
something about him. He's out there, so full of himself, and pompous. He thinks he's like the greatest adventurer. Like he's something about. So I'm looking forward to the terminal essay to see how off the wall it is.
He's a character.
And I know we picked like a really long and difficult way to do this, but I think I'm glad we picked this one at least because
I am too, actually. I mean, I had my doubts to begin with Ryan, but
it's after this there's only 1,000 more to go. That's it.
almost there. A year later, the tiger's wife.
It looks so pained.
I really enjoyed it. I thought she did such a great job with the story. And my rating would be 5 out of 5 stars.
Yeah, that's exactly.
I enjoyed
what
it that
would-
much.
This one was.
So would you agree, though, that it started off a little slow?
Yes.
And I was worried there for a little while, but then once you get over that hump, the pace really picks up, and I was just so carried away by the story.
Right. So we need to thank Cheryl for.
Now we can officially
Now
thank
we-
her. Thank you, Cheryl. We really enjoyed it. And it's not a book that I would have picked up, although it's something that I enjoy reading. The book actually won the Orange Prize for fiction, and it was a finalist for the National Book Awards, which doesn't surprise me because it's a smashing debut, I think, by...
She's so young too.
Yeah.
When she wrote this,
She was 25.
I mean that makes me so mad.
Talk about
Because
talent.
she's so talented.
It was so well written, and some verses were just so beautiful. I was just so struck by the writing. But I do understand the mixed reviews, though, don't you?
It's like anything else. Either it gets too hype and someone reads it and they're disappointed, or they've already put their preconceived notions on what they think it's going to be and they're disappointed at the time it came out. And it just might not be someone's cup of tea because it was a lot of allegory and subtle. The magical realism is never explained, so it comes to the point where it's like so dark and yet so magical.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that because I think the book is a perfect blend of realism and just mysticism.
Right.
Just so well blended and written.
She just came out with a new one last year.
Oh, she did?
It's called Inland. The
that's
cover
right. I
looks
saw that.
nothing like this one. The exact opposite, really. It did start off kind of slow, and like, because they see a tiger, and then they keep talking about the tiger's wife, and it doesn't come together until much later. Like how she just weaved all the narratives. Why is she telling the story? And it's just so important later on. It just, the ebb and flow of it.
She blends the story of her relationship with her grandfather in with the stories that he tells her about the deathless man and the tiger's wife. That was done so beautifully. I mean, those tales were very, very good. Just in and of themselves.
Because it's basically about grief. She does it in such a way that you don't feel like sad. You almost feel, I don't want to say uplifted, but like you don't go away feeling bummed.
Yeah, it's quite hard to explain. But did you enjoy the story of Darisha the bear as much as I did?
I like that one.
I really liked that one, and I just loved just his relationship with his sister and just how he cared for her. That was just so endearing to me. I don't know why.
I like how the narrator, because it's all first person, so even when she's telling these other stories about people that have died long before she was born, she's telling them like she was there, just like her grandfather would probably tell it. I mean, it's just as much about storytelling and like passing off history. I mean, that's what stories are, though.
So I'm so glad that we read it, though. It's one of my favorites. I think it's something that I wouldn't mind rereading. I don't usually reread books, but this one is probably one that I would.
I'd be scared too, because what if it loses some of that magic now that
you
know?
So?
I mean, it might be interesting in the sense that you'll pick up on more about when she says little details in the beginning of the beginning of the stories that you'll already know the outcome of that you might have forgotten by that point. But I'd be almost scared that it would lose some of that first time
magic.
Yeah.
I just found myself. What did you think of the story of the butcher and his deaf-mute bride? It started off. His name is Luca, right? Luca. Ooh, if there was ever a character wound so tight. I mean.
But not always, though. Like, she gave him she humanized him at the beginning, and then you saw the turning point. Like,
yeah.
She gave you that exact moment where everything went wrong. And he was done. I mean, I don't want to say, like, exactly what it was. It's big to the overall story. But I like how, like, she introduces Luca, 50, 100 pages before, and you don't even realize how prominent he's going to be. It's all these just interwoven. I don't know. It's good. It's good. I think Burton could have learned a couple things. How to weave a story.
Yes. I mean, but she tied everything in so perfectly. I have never read a book that was set in the Balkan region.
Right.
And so, I mean, it was just sort of nice to just have to travel to a different place.
And with all the wars going on, it still felt like boxed in. And like whenever she described settings, you could know that like everyone was kind of apprehensive. It's such a good book. Such a good book.
Thank you once again, Cheryl. We loved it.
What else you got?
I also read Natasha Trethewey's Memorial Drive. It came out this month, I think. She's a Pulitzer Prize-winning poet of Native Guard, which I have not read, but her writing is just so heartbreakingly beautiful. And this one is a heartbreaking story. It's basically a reckoning of her mother's death by her abusive stepfather.
Okay.
And it's actually set in Mississippi and Atlanta.
Really?
So, yeah.
So you would recommend?
I would. I mean, just because
the
writing.
Brace yourself for the feelings.
Yes, I mean it's not a lighthearted read just because of the subject material. And I actually there's one line from the book that sums up the underlying thread of the memoir, and it reads, "To survive trauma, one must be able to tell a story about it." And I just thought that it summed up the whole, the book so perfectly, because that's basically, I think she had to tell the story in order to save herself from the heartbreak. I mean, even though it happened when she was 19, I mean, just after all these years, I think she was still trying to come to terms with the fact that her mother died the way she did. I mean, I'm glad I read it, but it is rather heartbreaking. Gosh, everything I've read lately has been so sad. I mean, that one was about death. Well, and this one basically is too.
Our choice for next month is
yes. Oh no, that's gonna be.
I'm just going to blow through this bag again. I read The Third Bad Guys. It actually picked up at this point. He's kind of hitting his stride. The first two was okay. This one actually made me laugh out loud.
I've been wondering about those.
Yeah.
Are they just funny or?
It's more silly, I guess.
Is it silly and funny like Dogman?
Not as poop jokey. I still go Dogman over this one. Found the second crowded. So this is the first time, had the last one on the last video, I think, or something. Better than the first one. Story keeps going. Twists and turns, character development, blah, blah, blah. But I do recommend this one still. Oh, yeah, this one. This one it's a bunch of, each paragraph is a different, like, theory. You can't read them like you would a page of paragraphs. Like, if you have to take each one individually. But it
so
helps.
Each paragraph can stand on its own apart from the book?
Right.
Oh,
It's
really?
like a bunch of small essays, essentially.
Oh, really?
But it's all like leaning towards like a Marxist slant and helps start the help trigger the May 1968 revolt in France. He really just, and it's scary too because like this was written obviously before 68.
How did you come across the book?
I don't remember. I don't know. Sometimes I see a title that seems strange and I just type it in. I'm like, oh look, there it is. Some of the essays some of them didn't like quite stand the test of time, but a lot of them did, and it's kind of scary that we're still so just. But you'd probably be into this one.
Okay, well, I have to take a look at it.
It's
The
it's
Society of the Spectacle. Oh,
Yeah.
wow, that is quite a title.
it's for being such a small book, it took me a while because you gotta really like
Okay.
slow down.
Okay, so
I
it's
had
something
to
that
slow
you
down.
really have to devote a lot of attention to while you're reading. Like, it's not a
Right.
light read.
No,
Okay.
not at all. But interesting points.
Okay. It does sound like something
yeah.
I would read.
The Miles Morales Spider-Man. This one, I don't normally like Marvel comics, but this one was pretty good. It was well written. The dialogue felt more real than most comic books. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that one. Let's see. The Van Apfel girls are gone. It was okay.
Oh,
It was
really?
okay. It's just lacking something. It was so like these girls disappear, they run away, and like this girl who now lives in America travels home to Australia, and it's like bringing back all these memories because they were like all really close, and she's just trying to come to terms with the fact that they're gone, and three out of 5.
Not bad.
Oh yeah, I did read this. I don't know. It's just turn off your brain and go for it.
Mob Psycho 100. Right?
Yes. Yeah. He takes all these tropes of manga or action books and it's like flips them on the head because like this guy's like the most powerful, but he refuses to use them, and like he's just
For the greater good or for.
just anything. He just and like people are trying to like half the book someone's trying to fight him and he just won't. He's like nope, and it's just silly. Oh yeah, I read Howl's Moving Castle for
It's so
something.
interesting that you mentioned that because I've been trying to finish the Ghibli film on
Right.
on HBO. So it's supposed to be good. It's one of their most popular, I think.
yeah, just
Did you like it?
don't tell Michaela because this was her pick, but I just
didn't?
couldn't.
Really?
Yeah, there's something about the writing seems so. And it's
Was
like,
it a little too simple?
maybe.
Sometimes I find that books that are written too simply, I have a hard time following just because I lose interest.
Right.
So you didn't like it?
Not necessarily.
Huh.
Like I didn't hate it. wasn't the.
Maybe
it might
your,
have just been overhyped.
maybe
or,
your expectations were too high.
and since reading it, I keep coming across it on like lists of books. Like I never really saw it before. Now that I've read it, I just keep seeing. I was like, "Are we sure about this one?"
That's usually how it is.
And
Oh
then,
wow, okay.
oh yeah, another comic book, Shazam. This one kind of followed close to the movie, but like I said, DC knows how to write a comic, so that one's pretty good. And then, I think that was this one. Everyone's an alien when you're an alien too. And it is so simple.
Oh my gosh.
It's such profound ideas told in the most simplest ways.
Really?
Yeah, it's good. I wouldn't recommend as high as Tiger's one,
Okay,
but I
okay.
would highly recommend this one. It surprised me. It really
Okay.
surprised me.
I
Really
mean, I like
enjoyed
the
it.
illustrations actually. It looks really neat.
And then I read an Alice Munro book.
I really like her. Her writing is just astonishing.
Yeah, like I don't know how she does it. She's
She just makes it seem effortless, doesn't she?
amazing. The reason I picked this one too is because this was the only time she's had stories that interconnected. Like every story is a standalone except for this one. And one character, it shows her different aspects of her life from when she's young,
Really?
right before she has her daughter, and then when she's much older and her daughter's like her age at the start. So if you've never read an Alice Munro book or a story,
You're missing out.
I'd highly recommend any of them. Anyone that I've ever read is worth the read.
I mean, even her short stories in the New Yorker, I keep mentioning that magazine. I just love the writing in it. Anyway, I read several short stories of hers in there, and they were all very good. Very good.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I forgot to bring my...
For next month, if you're looking to follow along with some sort of book club doing happy, feel-good books, you've come to the wrong place, because we'll be reading John Krakauer's Under the Banner of Heaven. Even blatantly on the cover, it talks about how a woman and her infant daughter were murdered, and that's just the first line of this. So we'll go down that rabbit hole. I need to stop reading so many comic books.